Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. I'm Peter Lojak. He's Mike Brenner. This is the Odds Couple Sports Betting Show for Monday, August 29th. We've got three interesting segments, Mike Brenner. The first thing we're going to take a look at is we're going to take a look back at Week 3 from the preseason.
Of course, the
dress rehearsal. We saw a lot of on-field time. Yes, from the starters, presumptive starters, and
injuries.
Injuries. So there's a lot actually that I think is useful looking ahead. You don't want to read too much into it, but I do think you want to read a little bit into it. Let's just go back and forth. The first thing that I think is interesting, I guess let's just start with the Chicago Bears offense stalled out, right?
Yeah.
Now, their offensive line is dealing with injuries, so, hopefully, presumably they'll be healthier by the regular season, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that we expect them to continue to struggle when Week 1 rolls around?
I don't think so, and I had wrote some notes down,
Yeah.
Pete, and I think it's probably, I think we needed to do this segment because there's a lot of angles for betting that could be. All right, here's a team that right now they had problems on the field. All right, they literally almost had not a riot, but they had a brawl. All right, it led into the locker room as far as verbally. They've not recovered from that. And this coach, and I like John Fox, but he doesn't have that team. He's lost that locker room. And when players don't believe in each other, Pete, that makes for a hell of a long season. This is one team that I really thought might overachieve this year and really, make a run with that receiving core. They should, but I don't know. I'm questioning it now. I really am. I think there's some big gaps to be filled.
So then you don't think it's going to be fixed by Week 1?
I don't think it is. I think even into maybe week 2 and 3, and I think this might predicate what's going to happen for the season, Pete.
Yeah,
because Cutler just is not the guy to grab that team and say, let's get over this shit. He's not that guy.
I am kind of a believer in John Fox in general, but maybe if he doesn't have enough to work with, there's nothing you can do.
Exactly, because his record's been nothing but a proven success.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's hear your first notable thoughts from Week 3.
Okay.
Preseason.
Well, here we go. There's one team that I think is and you've been you've been on this. You've had a good eye. Oakland Raiders. I think with that starting unit, I think that's definitely, they might be not unstoppable, but they're going to be hard to contain. Yeah. They really are, and they believe in themselves. They believe in each other. They're very healthy. And what my hat's off to Del Rio offensively and letting his coordinator dictate the time because he's had no major injuries and nicks and bruises. That adds up. But the question mark, and he's scratching his head because he's a defensive expert. He said our defense has some holes I didn't anticipate, so we got some work to do in Week 4. So, that's one big thing I took.
Amari Cooper had a bit of an injury last year, and so far in preseason this year, he's looking 100%, looking great. And of course, Derek Carr is looking like every bit the leader and the elite NFL quarterback that people were expecting him to be. So I think maybe expectations Oakland will live up to or exceed expectations, at least in the early going. Then let's move on. The second team that I want to discuss, is the other team with high expectations, which is Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And with them, it's a little bit of a different story, right? The offensive line getting bulldozed. I mean, they were playing against Atkins and
very well said, bulldozed.
But some problems there. Some problems there. Concerns appearing, at least from what we saw in Week 3 preseason for the Jags, right?
Absolutely, and you nailed it on the head. That line got bulldozed. Yeah. And I read a quote from Blake Bortles. He said, hey, I got to feel 100% protected when my back's turned. And he said, I'm not at that point right now. Hey, that tells you something. And they have so much potential, but I think that still, Pete, is a work in the making. And I'm not going to be backing them. I'm not going to be fading them. I'm going to take a look at that team really close.
Seeing.
That's a wait and see for me, big time.
Yeah. All right, because there were some concerns. If you watched the game on Week 3, all right, what else would you like
There's
to
one that's Houston, we got a problem. And I'm not talking about the Houston Texans. I'm talking about Arizona Cardinals because Carson Palmer, I got a feeling this is the year that the decline really shows. I don't see him finishing this year as a starter, be it because of poor performance or of injury. Now, there was something he did the other night, and I watched it, and when he exited the field, him and Arians were just chewing at each other, going at it. So already you got strife with the head coach who just got out of the damn hospital, and Palmer's trying to give him more issues. So I don't know. It's not all his fault, but his age is catching up to him, Pete. And I'm telling you, I think that team's going to be a little overvalued, especially on the offensive end early on until Arians straightens it out. But
maybe on the defensive end, the secondary is looking vulnerable for that team too, right?
They are.
I mean, Peterson's dinged up a little bit. Honey Badger's dinged up a little bit. I don't know.
And I think their offense is going to put the defense in a position this year early on to where they're on the field too much. So there's one I think you better take a look at. And there's one like that went off for me that I'll be honest with you, I was a little surprised. It was Houston Texans. They looked freaking good.
They
looked
now,
good.
Do we think that's going to carry over into the regular season?
Defensively, it will. Defensively,
because I mean, we remember from recent years the Detroit Lions would sweep their preseasons,
and then shit got real.
What do you think about Houston though? They have some explosive guys at receiver, don't they?
They do. They really do. They have potential, and I really think Osweiler's just having a couple good games in preseason. I think it's taken a little of the pressure off. He's no longer in Denver, and he knows that. And I think that team's going to be fun to watch. And if they stay healthy, especially on the defensive end of the ball, and they can just operate that offense to score points similar to the old Ravens, all right, back when Trent Dilfer was there, if they can do something like that, because they got an elite defense, if they can put that together, that team's going to be dangerous. But one of the biggest things on the map is the whole state of New York is screwed this year, buddy. You got the Bills that suck, you got the Giants that suck, and you got the Jets that don't know if they're coming or going.
The Bills,
this is the truth.
You're not sold on Tyrod
Brian,
Taylor?
Not at all.
No?
Not at all. I'm not sold on that head coach either. I'm not. I think this is going to be his last gig in the NFL as far as head coach. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Pete, I'm not sold on this team. I think they might have a really good defense, but I think it buck stops there.
All right, and the Giants' defensive leader, Casillas, has an injured rib. He's going to play through it, but I don't know.
Eli called Peyton and said, help.
I don't know. So you're not high on any of those teams.
No, New York.
Who are you the most down on? Who are you
the most down for sure?
Three?
The Giants. I'm so disappointed because this is a team that, and again, we still haven't started the first game, but I think what really has hit this team hard. You had the same head coach for so many years that pretty much ran like a boot camp type of style. Okay, preseason practices. He did. Tom Coughlin's known for that. He's an ex-Marine. This is the first year this is the first year his impact's being felt. Pete, their shit not getting real over there. They better take a look at some issues, and they better look at the talent they have. Now, Eli Manning's going to step up and take this thing under control, or he might get lost in the shuffle, which we've seen him do years past. He kind of fades away when they need that leader to step up. I'm scratching my head at the whole state of New York. Now, can they fix it? Every one of them, absolutely. This is NFL. They're the best athletes in the world. But do they have great coaches? I don't know. It will remain to be seen. But I wouldn't want to be a New York fan of the Giants, the Jets, or the Bills right now.
All right, and going back to the topic of quarterbacks who aren't getting protection, let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts, right?
Whoa,
they're having offensive line issues.
And you said that early.
And that was something that they tried to improve in the offseason, and so far not looking like it's getting any better at all, and they're dealing with some injuries. That guy LaRaven Clark looks like he's kind of clueless out there, and I don't know. Luck was running for his life in week 3. What do you think? Do you think that they're going to be able to fix those offensive line issues? And if not, are the Colts going to be overvalued in the early weeks of the season?
I think they very much will be. And when Andrew Luck was running for his life in this preseason game, you know what was coming out? He didn't have a mouthpiece in. He was saying, thank God I just signed the biggest contract in the history of the NFL because I think I may end up on my ass again like Tony Romo. Oof. Wow, there's another one, but we'll get into that later. But
one team that tried to make improvements on the offensive line in the offseason and appears, based on week 3, to be successful was the Vikings, right?
Oh, yeah. I got to call it like it is. And again, it's just preseason, but I watched Bridgewater on a couple series, and he looked very good. But guess what?
The same downfield.
Yes, but what continues to worry me for him, not worry me, but bottom line, he's not a big guy, Pete. If he gets hit a couple, 3 or 4 big times, I think it's going to affect him, and it might wear on his body as the season goes. But again, Zimmer, his defense is locked in. But I will say this, I was also a little bit impressed with Sean Hill and the little job he did, the little time he had stepping in. So Minnesota, I think as it goes, wears down, because I don't think AP, who's not getting any reps at all in preseason, I don't think he's going to be ready to kill
but
it.
they got good running production from the other guys.
I know, but it's preseason. It's preseason. Asiana, he's got a lot of expectations, and he should. All right, and he's literally the backup in the wing. So we'll see what happens.
Just the point is that was an offensive line that was where they specifically
and they did strengthen it.
And they did strengthen it. It looks like the results are there. All right, and then how about Jameis Winston? He did play well in week 3. You're still not sold on him?
Not really, but I did. I looked at his stats. I looked at him and Mike Evans.
Nice
That's a good
there.
connection there. Really good connection there. But I'm afraid that this guy, gets a little too comfortable when he does well, as opposed to getting challenged when he does well. Again, I may read this wrong, but this is what I like to dig into, and I still think that team's going to be one that could be overvalued until books catch up with it, and that's. Again,
and then what about the Cleveland Browns? Again, RG3 played well, and they've got weapons now at receiver. They've got multiple weapons, and it's looking like the strongest team offensively that they've had since at least in the 2000s. I mean, in recent memory. Do you think that they're also their defense is looking a little bit chintzy? Maybe we look for overs with the Browns. Maybe we look for their offense to be more productive than expected. What do you think?
I like that breakdown on the overs because their offense, I think, is a little bit overachieving. But the capabilities there because the weapons are there, the tools are in place, and the defense, as you called it, squincy or whatever you put it at. Yeah, chintzy. Yeah. This is it. Where do you come up with this shit? I love it.
Make up that word.
But years past the dog pound, that was the defense. So Pete, with that defense, really, and they're not deep. They are not deep in the trench. That might be a team to look for some overs, and I would do that probably in the first couple weeks before it gets caught up as
all right.
well.
And then,
good breakdown.
And then let's talk about, just before we wrap up, 2 running backs, Melvin Gordon and Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, did you see that one burst?
Both of them looking good, right? Melvin Gordon looking like his old self, and Ezekiel Elliott looking, ready for the NFL with a power running game.
Can't deny it.
Right?
Can't deny it.
What do you think?
Did you catch the video of Ezekiel Elliott going into the marijuana store? I mean, and I like the kid. It was an honest mistake. He really was. I think he's going to be fun to watch, and if he stays healthy, that kid's, because I've seen some interviews now, he's not one of those cocky over the edge. He's just a good ball player. I'll tell you right now, Urban Meyer, that was his coach, so he was coached well. I am impressed with him, and definitely the burst I saw of Melvin Gordon on 3 different plays, he had that little jolt that was like boom. So he's healthy, he's feeling it, and before we go, Pete, there's one guy I got to talk about. Landry Jones looked fantastic. Looked fantastic in week 3. 19 out of 22, and he looked confident. And guess what? He better start trying to do that, because I got a feeling Big Ben might go down like a big, big oak tree this year.
Well, we were predicting that for Tony Romo. What happened before the season started.
We did.
We'll get to that in a
Sorry to
second
say we were right, but damn it.
All right. So overall, just in general, your thoughts from week 3. What are when you think about it? What's the first 1 or 2 ATS recommendations that jump out at you based on what you saw in week 3?
Okay, I think for sure. All right, and also we didn't mention it. The Dolphins, I think, are going to be a little bit better than people think. Okay, look out for that. But I just think the Cardinals, it sticks out like a stick in the mud. Maybe something on the unders, because I don't think their offense is going to be able to just maintain with other teams. And I think they're overvalued, Pete. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to win that division.
I hear you. And mine, I think, will be fade the Colts.
Okay.
I think that's my first.
And you know what? You've been talking about that early, and
I mean, we know they're going to be vulnerable on defense, and if the offensive line starts breaking down, and it's all on Andrew Luck's, shoulders, and just like you said, the big contract's got to be somewhere.
Got to be.
Yeah, fade the
look
Colts.
for him now. Guess what? When he sees what's in front of him and protecting him, or should I say not protecting him, that guy's not going to go 110%. I wouldn't. I mean, I'm never going to say I don't blame him, but bottom line, Pete, come on.
All right. Sounds good, Mike Brenner.
Breaking it down.
If you like Captain American football, there's 50,000 dead presidents on the line in this year's Beat the Prick contest. In case you ain't fucking guessed, I'm the prick. Click on the link below for more info. I'm ready to stomp some ass. This is gonna be my best performance yet. So join today. It's free, you fucking squares.